Hello folks and welcome. So today's video is on productivity on multiple web browsers. So my guinea pigs for today is a Brave web browser, Chromium, and Google Chrome and Firefox. So I'm not really going to talk about installing web browsers as opposed to some productivity. You know, the stuff we do every day. We're looking at web pages, we're resizing content, we are clicking on tabs, we're closing tabs. We are opening bookmarks and creating bookmarks and possibly even renaming those. That's what I'm referring to, productivity. This video is for anyone that uses Mint. Welcome folks. I'm filming in 4K today. My video will be more than 2 minutes. All my videos have timelines and chapters, and I encourage that you subscribe. So I'm going to close the window and I'm going to open up Piper. Piper is something that is used with gaming mice. And the only reason I'm pointing to it is that scroll wheel. So I also have in my other hand a very inexpensive $10 computer mouse that also has a scroll wheel. It doesn't have all the fancy buttons, but in either case it has a scroll wheel. And what I'm going to be using that scroll wheel is in conjunction with a keyboard. So what I'm going to do is open up the US layout keyboard. I'm going to talk about the control key. So the control key left or control key right, it doesn't really matter. Okay? So in either case, I'm going to be just making mention when I use that control key, I will be holding it down. And I'll talk about that. I may use the words depress. I'm Icelandic, so sometimes I do mention it and I don't even think about it sometimes. But when I say depress, I mean hold it down. If I say tap on the control key, that's different. But in either case, so let me restart. Piper. Sorry. So Piper is just a gaming mouse thing, but the reason I'm using Piper is just so I can show you that button. Now I have this $10 mouse, and I'm just going to hold it up to the microphone so you can hear this click. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing straight down on this button right here, or this scroll wheel. And what you're hearing is this switch activating. A lot of you folks have this on your regular computer mouse and don't even realize it. It's underneath that scroll wheel, and it's called a middle button, mouse button. It's a switch, in other words. It activates things. And I'm going to be using that to activate closing and opening tabs. I'll even use a web page to open up an article and open that up in a separate tab using that key. All right, so far so good. All right, let me minimize that and let's start on the first web browser. So some more tips for you. Just double click on that line or do it this way if you're wanting to resize the window itself. Hamburger menu. So Brave is a web browser that is based off of Chromium, and then it has a lot of bells and whistles. They have what they call shields and a lot of privacy and data security is built into these kind of browsers too. All right, so I'm going to go to their main or the home for a second, and I'm going to resize the content. You probably noticed there's nothing happened to the background, but you can see that other stuff is being resized at the same time. I'm at 25%, and I'm going to resize this back to 500%. I know it may look weird to you, and this web browser, well, again, does some different stuff. All right, but more importantly, I'm going to be showing you resizing this. Now, anytime that you have bookmarks, you need to be below this line. That's why I'm using this yellow mouse pointer for this reason. As soon as my tip of my pointer goes above this line right here, keep in mind I'm over here. As soon as it goes above this line and I try to hold down that control key, this key right here, I'm holding it down, and then I'm going to try to scroll. Well, I'll just switch back to this. I'm trying to scroll forward or backwards to resize the content. This will not work when I'm above this line. And all it takes is that much. And nothing's working. As soon as I move below that, all of a sudden I can resize. All right, so in Brave you have this magnifying glass. And whatever your zoom level is, it's shown. You can also do reset. It's at 100. And I'll click in here, and it won't do anything other than what I just clicked on was the content. Okay, but in general, there's nothing currently here. That means I'm at 100. As soon as I start scrolling, this changes now. And most of you folks probably don't want to be in this range. You probably are wanting to be above 100 because we like to look at big things. And I don't care what age you are. So you're going to admit that you like to look at larger materials when you're looking at web pages. All right, especially if you're on a small screen. Now, a lot of you folks are probably wondering, can I use my touchpad? I haven't really found a successful way of resizing stuff using a touchpad. I haven't experimented with that yet. But I'm using a regular mouse. So whether it's a Bluetooth or USB based, there you have it. And keep in mind, if you do have a touchpad, there's a really inexpensive mouse out there if you want to try to use this feature, especially on your desktop. All right? So a console computer, desktop, I also have different words for those kind of things. You know, in either case, I'm going to move on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up Amazon, and I'm currently at whatever percent level, 150, and I'll just resize that to 110 or 140, and I'm going to let go of the control key, and now I can scroll normally at 140%. This is 100. I can also go plus. However, I think you'll probably find my method of resizing this kind of stuff on the fly is a lot faster. If you haven't seen any of my videos on the file manager, you ought to go take a look at that. All right, so I'm going to open up some extra tabs. We can do this manually by clicking in plus on the tab thing, or hit Control T. I'm going to open up several tabs. So the first one, I'm going to use that one for Amazon, and you're probably going, oh, he's got an A there. And this one I have a T there. And do you know why I'm doing this? I'm going to show you why. So a lot of you folks are, let me get rid of Amazon for a second. Just delete the whole thing. Okay, and then I'm going to basically bookmark it now. So what happens here? Amazon.com.spendless.smilemore. Well, do you want to put that on your panel? Not panel, on your bookmark? Sure, that's fine. So what happens when you run out of room? Oh, yeah, these are kind of long, aren't they? Exactly. That's why I edit these things. After a while, you get to know what these icons look like if you use the same bookmarks after a while, right? So why not just use A? Save some space, and now you can squeeze more of these goodies in here. You get more real estate on your, bookmark bar. Add more bookmarks. All right, let me continue. All right, new tab. How about we do news on that one, and we'll do Linux Mint on this one. And we already have an Amazon, so do we have a, yeah, that one's travel. Let's just do Google on that one. Resizing stuff, 400%, Linux Mint, 80%. This one here, I'm gonna get rid of that commercial thing. We'll do 133 on that one. And what's this one set for? 90. We'll leave it at 90. And this one is set for 150. We'll go to 250 on that one, or 200. Yeah, that's probably good enough. So you agree all of these are different sizes. Okay? No big deal, right? Okay, I don't want you to focus in on the articles themselves because they're depressing enough. But what I'm going to show you here is I am going to be using this key here by pushing straight down on it instead of scrolling to create tabs. I'm going to be pushing straight down on this scroll wheel to create tabs because there's a switch underneath that scroll wheel called a middle button. And a lot of you folks have this and don't realize you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm reading the news, and I want to save these articles in my book or tabs up here for later reading. Here's one, and you can see it loading. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm reading some more, and I want that one later. And another one. These three articles just got loaded into here. This is, again, Brave web browser. So I'm looking at the main news here, and I'm going to resize this to 150. Then I'm going to click the next tab over, and it's 150, and this tab is 150. Did I click this one too? Yeah, I guess so. So now I'm going to resize this to 75%. This is also now at 75%, and so is this one. and this one. These are like a group. These are not. This is 90. This is 200. This is 400%, and Linux Mint is 80. I'll click the main one and scroll this back up to 150%. Click the next tab over, which was a derivative because I pushed down on that. Here, let me do it this way. I pushed straight down on that. So these articles here came from here. So hence I just resized this to 150, so these become 150. All right, now that I've created these, I'm going to show you another nifty little trick. Using the same button, pushing straight down on this scroll wheel, I'm going to close these tabs, and I can close them in any order I want. Oh, sure, you can do the old-fashioned X. That's standard stuff. But if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I don't do a lot of standard stuff. So I'm going to close Mint, and then I'm going to go to this Run and close that, and Wonder, and Think, and NBC News. And this one. All I'm doing is pushing straight down on this wheel right here. Straight down to activate this button right here. And I'm going to close this last one, which closes the browser itself. Another method of closing down a web browser, again, I'm going to resize this to 300. Okay, I know the picture inside doesn't do that, but the content does. And I got a plus key. So instead of aiming for that, I'm going to use Alt and F4. Moving to the next browser. This is Chromium. Chromium also has a plus thing. That one is currently at 125%. Again, I need to be below this line to resize stuff on the fly. One more time for you folks that like to skip around on videos. And I do encourage that you watch a lot of my video in its entirety, but I understand some folks like to do that. And they sometimes skim over material. Holding down that control key while scrolling forward and back to resize that. I'm scrolling forward, scrolling backwards, scrolling forward, scrolling backwards. Got to be below this line. Above this line, it doesn't work anymore. All right, let's talk about tabs, and let's talk about bookmarks. So bookmarks are pretty simple to do. It's the little star here. If I didn't make mention of this earlier, with the Brave browser, it's this little guy right here. That's the bookmark tab. I'll use Alt and F4. All right, let's open that browser back up, and we can do the manual tab. We can do Control T. Control T, Control T. I'll open up several. So I'll put news on this one, and this one will go with the travel thing. And what are we going to use that? How about Amazon on that one? We already got the start from Mint, and we'll just use Google for that. Resizing stuff on the fly. Let's check this thing out. 150%. I can also hit reset. It goes back to 100. What is the up and down? 25% is the low end. 500% is the upper end. I'll leave that at say 125. Next one over. Currently sitting at 110. We'll leave it alone, and let's go to Amazon. Amazon is sitting at 175. Let's lower that a little bit to about 150. Once I let go of that control key, keep in mind, when you're actively resizing, you're holding this thing down. When you're done, you let go of it, and it scrolls in that resized fashion, which currently is 150%. Google News is set at 125, and Expedia is set at 150. I'll make Expedia a little bit bigger. 250. This is still the same. Let's go to Google News. Actually, that was Google News. All right. Next example, I'm going to be pushing straight down on this thing. This browser behaves a little differently than the other, but in either case, you should be able to do this. you're reading the news and you want to save an article in a tab for later reading, click this button right here. Push straight down on it. So that's one tab. Let's keep scrolling down. Let's find another one. It's loading right here. Let's click this one and it's loading right here. So let's go back and we're on the main Google News page. We're currently at 125.
Attention, the government could soon begin to pay you $1,000 a month.
Okay.
No matter how much money you make.
If you don't
or what
mind,
you do
I
for a living.
will try to quiet him down. All right, this is currently at 100%. I just want to let you say that was a derivative of that news article, but I'm going to resize that to 200. The next one came from here. It's still at 25. So I'm going to resize that up. And that was the other one. So they're independently resized, even though they came from here. In other words, I push down on this on the news articles, just like I'm doing here. The tab is loading right here. Okay, it's at 100% currently. It's 250. The main news thing right now is at 125. All right, now I'm going to close these things out of order. Again, I'm pushing straight down on this thing. Doesn't matter what order I pick this in. Or I could use the conventional X, but I'm not. You can hear me clicking. All I'm doing is pushing straight down on that. Let me open this back up. Straight down on this thing. And if I close the last one using the same method, whether I do it here or push straight down, it will close this web browser. And then I'll reopen it. What's another way to resize the window? Double click, double click, double click. Bigger, smaller, Alt and F4. So this was Chromium. Let's move to the next browser, Google Chrome. Same deal, I gotta be below this line to resize stuff on the fly. Percent symbol is there once this disappears, and you can also reset that to 100 or even do it the manual way. Click out, scroll in, scroll out. What's the bare minimum on this browser? 25, 500%. Same as the other one. It's got the same symbology. Bookmarks, edits the same way. Don't like the long names, then you can of course just use an E. A lot of you folks, after you do this for a while, especially new folks that are using these browsers, after a while you get to know what these icons look like, and that really is all you need is one letter. But if you feel like you need the whole name, this long name, then go for it. It's just the fact that a lot of people are always trying to squeeze a whole bunch of these on one line. You know, once you run out of room, you get that drop-down arrow. A lot of people don't like that. Or they start moving these tabs around, these bookmarks around, to reorganize them, in other words. You can also just shorten the names, like Amazon for A, LM, Linux Mint. Okay, all right, same deal. 500%, new tab. This one is 300%. We'll reduce that to 125. 125 in other words. Linux Mint is still sitting at 500%. Control T also makes a new tab. And I don't have news, so let me, oh, okay, that's good enough for me. And then I'll open some extra news articles when I'm reading. Is this too big? Probably. It's 175. Let me reduce that down a little bit. We'll go with 150. All right, again, I'm going to push straight down on this. One article, scroll down some more, I'm still reading that one. It's opening up the tab, and that one, last tab. Main article here, zoom factor 150, next one over, 100%. Zoom up to 300%, go back to this one, 150, 300. This one here, currently at 100. 200%, and the last one is still loading, and this is currently at 100, so we're going to reduce this down. It's still trying to load. That's why it's cycling. I'm not going to wait for it. I'm going to hit the conventional close button. All right, there you get the idea though. They're independently resized. Even though I clicked the news articles that came from here are these two tabs. They're independent. 200% and 300%, and the main page was 150. Closing them the same way or closing them the conventional way, your choice. I'll close them out of order. I'll close Mint first, then this one, then that one, this one, and the last one. Opening up Google Chrome, double click to resize the window. I know it kind of blends in because it's black, but you get the idea. Alt and F4. Last browser is Firefox, which you should be familiar with if you've used Mint for a while. But the interesting thing about Firefox is it will display the percentages here based on this version. So if I go to About, this is the current version right now. All right, so double click, resizing text. Again, I gotta be underneath this bar. The same thing with all of those web browsers I've been showing the whole video. Okay, backend, 30%, a little different from the other browsers. The other browsers went down as low as 25%. It's not a big deal though. Most people can't read this at this size anyways. But this one still goes to 500. Okay, just wanted to let you see that. So a lot of people are probably operating in this range here, the 130% or so. Okay, that's after I resized. Let's talk about tabs and bookmarks. So bookmarks are done a little bit differently, right? So you have to be on a web page after you find it to be able to get that star. So let's go to distro watch for a second. We got the star. We hit that. Do we want all the goodies? Well, how about if we shorten that? We could go with, in this case, we can say distro watch LM, or we can just say distro or D. Your choice. Still got the logo and whatever else. And oh, by the way, if you're a subscriber, I do have a link of this on my YouTube site in the About section. All right, let's open up some tabs. Let's do distro watch on this one at 140, and we'll change this. Actually, we'll close that tab, and we will go with. Let's do that one with LFS, and we'll do the next tab with that, and Control T on the next one. So yes, you can use Control T also, and we'll do Expedia on that one, and I'll manually click that. And do I have news here? All right, good. All right, so we have the independent stuff, resizing stuff on the fly. If you are not a subscriber, I do recommend subscribing. I do have over 176 videos currently for you. Don't forget about the, I'm just resizing this back to 150 so you can see the search feature. And if you're using a mobile device, go take a look at my community tab for info. All right, so this is currently 150. 150, let's resize that to 200. Still 150, 200. Expedia, 130. Google News at 140. And the new tab at 170. 170, 150. This is the percent of size. That's what I'm referring to, of course. And let's open up some extra stuff from here into new tabs using that feature of, I gotta bring this back up again. Too many clicks. I'll reopen it, Piper. Or try to. All right, I'm pushing straight down on this wheel. Okay. So again, I'm going to pick some different articles, and I just want you to see where they're loading. Okay, it's loading right now. I'm still reading. This is not everybody's cup of tea, but for the ones that like to read news and then read different articles later, you're reading along and you want to save this for later, and you can do that. Okay, temporarily, of course. But more importantly, I'm currently at 140. This is at 100. Let me get rid of the commercial. Size that up to 150. Reduce that down to 40. 150. The page I started with was 140. The resized page 150. Independently resized, even though I click different tabs off the articles. But I can close down all the tabs the same way I've been showing this whole video. Pushing straight down on this thing to activate this button here, the middle click. Okay, I can do that in any order I want. I can use the X in the corner, that's pretty standard, but I can also just go in between these things to close these guys down. And what happens when I close the last one? The web browser shuts down. What's the other way of closing this browser down? Alt and F4. What's the other way of resizing Windows? Double click on the line. Does it work after you resize this? Absolutely. This is the same thing as clicking that. That is the same thing. The same action. Alt and F4. Thank you for watching.